Adoabi had written a letter and added poison. In the letter, she wrote, "My greed led me into this trap. The paper contains a dangerous poison designed to kill Cheikh Tchikiézé. He is infected with HIV. Avenge me if you can, or us if it's already too late for you." For Cheikh Tchikiézé was a sinister man who had made a pact with the devil after discovering that he was infected with HIV. As there was no cure, he had to sleep with a young girl infected with the disease every 5 years. He was promised that he would continue to live as long as he exchanged his life for that of a young woman every 5 years. Once upon a time in a village called Abakaliki, there lived a strikingly beautiful and desirable young woman named Adoabi. She was admired by almost all the men in the village and even in neighboring villages because of her beauty. However, she was extremely lazy, unlike her siblings who were diligent and ambitious. Adoabi was completely the opposite. Her parents had tried countless times to reason with her and advise her, but Adoabi refused to change. Being the youngest, she was pampered and spoiled by her parents. As a child, Adoabi was already exceptionally beautiful, which earned her the admiration and affection of many. Her parents refused to give her any household chores. Her older siblings were responsible for washing her clothes, cleaning the house, preparing meals, and working in the fields, while Adoabi stayed at home and did absolutely nothing. As a result, she became extremely lazy and known for her indifference. Her parents bitterly regretted their parenting mistakes, but it was too late. Many men from far and wide proposed to Adoabi, but she would rudely reject them and humiliate them in public. Adoabi wanted a very rich and influential man. "I'm too beautiful to marry a poor man," she would often say. She considered herself a goddess of beauty, unattainable by ordinary people. A few years later, seeing that they could no longer tolerate her laziness, her parents decided to send her to live in the city with her aunt Grace. Grace was a businesswoman who owned a supermarket. She welcomed Adoabi warmly and gave her a nice room. Married to Andrew, a banker who was often away, the couple had no children and treated Adoabi like their own daughter. However, Adoabi's true colors soon began to show. Her aunt tried to convince her to go to school or learn a skill, but Adoabi insisted that she was too beautiful to work and that she simply needed a rich man to support her. Provoked by Adoabi's attitude, Grace threatened to kick her out if she didn't make a decision. Adoabi finally agreed to work at the supermarket in exchange for a monthly allowance. Grace was pleased with her decision and hoped she would become responsible. One day, while Adoabi was working at the supermarket, a handsome young man named Mael came in to do some shopping. Attracted to Adoabi's beauty, he confessed his attraction to her. Adoabi told him she would think about it. Informed of the situation, Grace encouraged Adoabi to give Mael a chance, as he was a loyal and trustworthy customer. A week later, Adoabi agreed to go out with Mael. On their date, Mael told her about himself, his career as a businessman, and his desire to make her his wife. He promised to open a supermarket for her and provide for her financially. However, Adoabi did not share his ambitions. She aspired to a life of luxury, without effort, where she could spend money lavishly, go to clubs, and travel. She hid her intentions from her aunt and simply told her that she was still thinking about Mael's proposal. Adoabi's laziness made her work at the supermarket difficult. She had to get up early to open the store and had no time to sleep or laze around. Two young women, Sandra and Bianca, who were regular customers of the supermarket, had a bad influence on Adoabi. They told her about their luxurious adventures, the countries they had visited, the cars they drove, and the jewelry they bought. Adoabi became fascinated by this lifestyle. She ignored Mael completely and even began to act strangely towards him. One day, Sandra and Bianca came to the supermarket and told Adoabi that they were going to another state to celebrate their birthday and invited him to come with them. Knowing that her aunt wouldn't allow it, Adoabi secretly packed her bags and ran off with Sandra and Bianca. Together they set off for the birthday party. Adoabi discovered a world of luxury, sumptuous cars, magnificent mansions, and all sorts of luxury goods. Many rich and influential men were also present. As they sat down, Adoabi was curious to know how Sandra and Bianca could afford such a lifestyle. She asked them to explain, but they replied that she couldn't do what they did. Adoabi insisted, and they told him their secret. They seduced wealthy, divorced older men, married them, and then persuaded them to write their wills in their favor. Within 5 years, the man would die and they would inherit his entire fortune. Adoabi was surprised to hear this, as she was still a virgin and had never known a man. However, she pushed the thought aside and enjoyed the evening. The next day, they took her shopping and bought her all sorts of things, further encouraging her to adopt their lifestyle. After a week, Adoabi realized that she couldn't go back to her aunt. She wanted to live like Sandra and Bianca, and asked them to help her find a rich old man she could marry and inherit. After careful consideration, Sandra and Bianca decided to help her. They introduced her to a very rich man called Cheikh Tchikiézé. He was a billionaire with a weakness for young women. It was said that this was the reason for his wife's divorce. Cheikh Tchikiézé was also ill, and many thought he would soon die. Sheik Tchikiézé's birthday was approaching, and the girls decided that Adoabi should seduce him at the party. They taught him how to dance suggestively and seduce the men. On the big day, Adoabi wore a very short, seductive dress to attract Sheik Tchikiézé's attention. She danced sensually in front of him, and he was immediately interested. After the party, he took her home, but when he wanted to sleep with her, she revealed that she was a virgin and would only give her body to her husband. Cheikh Tchikiézé was surprised. He found it hard to believe that a virgin could dance so well and follow him home. So he made her a promise: he would marry her if she were really a virgin. Adoabi accepted the promise and slept with him. After checking that she was indeed a virgin, he legally married her, and Adoabi began to live in luxury. She had everything she wanted and could travel wherever she pleased. However, Sheik Tchikiézé imposed one condition: she had to swear never to sleep with another man. Without thinking about the consequences, Adoabi agreed. All he cared about was Sheik Tchikiézé's wealth. As Sandra and Bianca had done, she intended to inherit his entire fortune when he died. She was looking forward to the day Cheikh Tchikiézé died so she could take control of his empire. Sandra and Bianca had also warned her not to get pregnant, so she took contraceptive pills every time they made love. As the years passed, Adoabi's life became increasingly difficult. Sheik Tchikiézé began to impose strict rules on her. He prevented her from going out late at night, from going to nightclubs, and from doing things that might expose her to other men. Very jealous, he kept her practically locked up at home. She could spend and waste without counting the cost, but she lacked the freedom to explore. This made her very uncomfortable, but she had no choice but to endure, as she was looking forward to Sheik Tchikiézé's death. One day, Sheik Tchikiézé left on a business trip to another country. Adoabi took the opportunity to visit Sandra and Bianca. She complained about her situation and the unbearable life she was leading with Cheikh Tchikiézé. But they persuaded her to endure, even if it took longer than expected. During their conversation, Sandra made a terrible suggestion. She said to Adoabi, instead of waiting indefinitely, he is already sick and old. He wrote his will in your favor after his death, so why not just kill him and be done with it? Adoabi was shocked by his words. She looked at Bianca, hoping she would be against Sandra's suggestion, but Bianca said the same thing: I think that's a better idea. Kill him slowly, so no one suspects you, then inherit his fortune and enjoy life. Adoabi was stunned. How can you ask me to commit murder? She asked. The ball is in your court. Either you do this or you continue to endure in the hope that he dies quickly enough, Sandra replied. Don't forget that you're going to be 24 soon. The sooner you think about it, the better, added Bianca. When they left, Adoabi couldn't stop thinking about what they had said. Cheikh Tchikiézé was already 80 years old. Maybe it wasn't such a bad idea to kill him. She tried to convince herself that it wasn't wrong to kill him, as Sandra and Bianca had suggested. A few days later, Cheikh Tchikiézé returned, but by then, Adoabi had already made up her mind to kill him once and for all. She had visited a fetishist in Sheik Tchikiézé's absence, and he had given her a tasteless white substance that was supposedly incurable. He asked her to put it in Cheikh Tchikiézé's food every night, promising that his health would gradually decline until he eventually died. On the evening of Sheik Tchikiézé's return, Adoabi went into the kitchen to prepare a delicious meal for him. But as she was cooking, she collapsed. Adoabi was quickly rushed to hospital. After a few hours, she woke up in a hospital bed. The doctors told her that a series of tests had been carried out and it had been concluded that she had AIDS. The virus had deeply invaded her system and she had only a few months to live. Adoabi was shocked by this diagnosis. She couldn't understand how she could be infected, as Sheik Tchikiézé was the first and only man she had ever slept with. Confused, she went to Sheik Tchikiézé's house as soon as she left hospital, shouting and screaming, "Why did you infect me?" Sheik Tchikiézé's bodyguard grabbed her to prevent her from hurting him. When Adoabi had calmed down, Sheik Tchikiézé confessed to her that he had been HIV positive for many years. He confessed that this was why his wife had left him. He was on inveterate womanizer, and his wife had been lucky to discover this in time and not become infected. However, seeing how desperate and naive Adoabi was, he had decided to use her, seduced by her wealth. That was why he made her swear an oath not to sleep with any other man, so as not to infect anyone else. Adoabi was devastated. She knew that this was the end for her and that there was nothing she could do to save herself. She spent the last moments of her life confined to a room in Sheik Tchikiézé's house, regretting her decisions, her life, and wishing she had listened to her aunt from the start. In her final moments, she called her aunt and her family, apologizing for her mistakes and asking for their forgiveness. "I was too greedy, stupid and stubborn. I never listened to you. Look where that got me. I'm doomed." During the call, she breathed her last and died. Sheik Tchikiézé organized a modest funeral and passed on to another naive young woman, as if Adoabi had never existed. Her friends Sandra and Bianca didn't bother to look for her. They simply ignored her existence and went on their way. However, secretly hidden under her bed in the house of Sheik Tchikiézé, Adoabi had written a letter and added poison. In the letter, she wrote, "My greed led me into this trap. The paper contains a dangerous poison designed to kill Cheikh Tchikiézé. He is infected with HIV. Avenge me if you can, or else if it's already too late for you." For Cheikh Tchikiézé was a sinister man who had made a pact with the devil after discovering that he was infected with HIV. As there was no cure, he had to sleep with a young girl infected with the disease every 5 years. He was promised that he would continue to live as long as he exchanged his life for that of a young woman every 5 years. Do you think anyone would find the letter she wrote? The moral of this story reminds us that there are no shortcuts in life. This story is a warning about the disastrous consequences of greed, naivety, and wickedness. Everything beautiful has a price. Greed has its repercussions. Teach your children to be independent and diligent. This will help them a great deal and will also protect you. Be careful about the friends you choose. Just because others can do certain things and get away with it doesn't mean you can do the same and get away with it. Thank you so much for watching. Tell us which city or country you follow us from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoyed this story. Like, comment and share. Thank you and God bless you.